Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting of the Urbana Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown.
Here.
Annie Adams. Here. Leonardo Kovas. Kara Dudek. Here. Cynthia Hoyle. Audrey Ishii. Here. Susan Jones.
Present.
Jeff Marino. Craig Schonkweiler.
Here.
Nancy Westcott. Here. Morgan White. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
We did have corrections. Oh, I'm sorry, that was
To
the
the
minutes. To
okay.
the minutes, yes, not the agenda.
If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I so moved.
Moved by Sue,
I'll second.
seconded by, who did that?
Audrey.
Audrey, okay, thanks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next we have the minutes from last meeting. There were some corrections. Did you send those out to people, or?
I did not email them, but
Okay.
I passed them out to everyone. The corrections are in red.
Okay, so everyone has a copy of the corrections and additions. Are there any additional corrections or additions? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll approve the minutes.
Moved by Annie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Craig. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks. Okay, public input. I have 3 cards. Kelly, you want to go first? Kelly Wegang. I don't say your last name much.
It's Wigan,
Wegan.
like the transitive verb. I've been planning to come here for probably 3 weeks now, but I suspect there are people behind me that have only in the past week decided to come because of some events from last week, and I want to urge you to listen to them and also pay particular attention to Jason Rock's remarks from last night. There may have been others, but at the Urbana City Council meeting, but please pay attention to that. But I'm here because I work in the University of Illinois Research Park, and I've been there since it was built. Power World started in the I building, but is now in the building that is now known as State Farm, but it used to be called Strata. And I moved to Urbana from Champaign 9 years ago. It didn't occur to me when I moved how much harder it is to bicycle to the University of Illinois Research Park from Urbana than it is from Champaign. It's a lot harder. There is not a way in town to do it. You can either take Windsor and be out among the wind and the debris, or you can take Delaware and then figure out when traffic isn't coming after you've cut south on Busey and look both ways carefully and hope nobody clips you too bad as you try to go make a left-hand turn onto Lincoln. But the way home is much worse because you have to make a left-hand turn onto Delaware, onto Busey at that point from Florida, if you know where I'm talking about, on Florida. And it's just hard. It's not an ideal situation. And at this point, there are thousands of people that are looking to be working at the University of Illinois Research Park. And if the city of Urbana would like to poise themselves as a place for those people to live, they're going to have to come up with a solution to make it just as attractive as Champaign in terms of commuting via bicycle. At present, there are a lot of parking places at the University of Illinois Research Park, and over 40% of them remain unused on a daily basis because people are getting to work via means other than vehicles. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Only 40% of them are used on a daily basis because people are using means other than cars to get there, which maybe they're using the bus, maybe they're using Uber, maybe they're using bikes. At present, my building has indoor bike storage that I don't even use because it's always full, so I bring my bike up to my cubicle. And I can count on one hand the people who come to the research park from my neighborhood in Urbana. Less than one hand, there's 4 of us. So I would say that this is a situation that should be addressed, and I think that the best way to do it is to figure out how to set actual infrastructure in place on Florida. So I was told by an unpresent member of your committee that this was the first place to start talking to people about this, and I would like there to be bike infrastructure on Florida, in particular between Race and Lincoln, because that's where we need it, and that's where it's kind of scary when you're trying to go to and from work at the hours when cars are trying to go to and from work to actually go. That's all I wanted to talk to you about. But I hope you'll listen to the other people that are going to be here talking,
Yeah.
probably, because they have important things to say. Do you have any
Okay.
questions? No.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Are there any questions for Colleen?
Can we add it to an agenda item to talk about commuting to the iHotel or the research park? Because I often do it from Urbana.
Sure.
Not today. I mean,
Yeah,
like in the
we can
future,
add
like
it
add it
on-
as a topic, and then we could invite you.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
and
have no idea
yeah,
how
I
that
can
works.
talk about that too, because I work at Vet Med, and you know, we don't want to get in a big conversation about it now, but there are some options, and we've had a bicycle master plan with a route drawn between Race and Florida for about 10 years.
I know about this plan, and I knew about it before I started working at,
sure
or
you
sorry,
did,
before I moved to
yeah.
Urbana, but I didn't have the brains to come and talk to you until today.
And
So it obviously needs to move up in priority. So let's add that to a future agenda.
yeah, I mean, I had a long discussion with a graduate student who lives on the horse farm off St. Mary's Road about St. Mary's Road, and she was told you're never supposed to bike or run there, and
There used to be signs up that said that.
yeah, well, the
The signs don't
university-
exist anymore, but
yeah,
they
and
did
that's a
used to
university
exist.
road. So there's going to be a lot of collaboration and a variety of people working together to try to make this a successful space. But I really believe it should be a successful space for people who want to go for long walks, who want to get to work. I think we can really do something here. So, yeah.
I think the most important component of that is getting between Race and Lincoln at this point.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is, I mean, St. Mary's Road, once you can get there, yes, it's not ideal to have giant trucks going past you with their huge mirrors sticking way out, going really fast, because this happens to me nearly every day. It's not ideal, but it's better than that moment when you're on Kirby, when you're not sure what's going to come behind you, because merging traffic is happening right when you're trying to turn left onto Busey. It's a really dangerous thing that we have there.
Yeah, I often use the University President's driveway to do a right loop and wait.
Another thing that'd be great, you don't have a GoPro or anything, do you?
I don't have anything like
Okay.
that, no.
I'm just-
Sorry, otherwise I could show
Well,
you.
when we future topic this, maybe we'll find a way to like GoPro it, and we can present people what it feels like to be on a bike to get from A to B. That might be one way to talk about it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And then we have 2 people from the committee. Did you guys want to talk to? Was there any other public input? Okay. Annie Adams.
I am here to talk about the preventable death of Shelley E. Taylor. Last night at the Urbana City Council meeting, Jason Rock, a University of Illinois PhD student, said, as quoted from the News Gazette, "The largest factor for this accident was the road design and not the speed limit. The reality is that I'm not surprised someone died at Vine in Maine. The design of those streets undermines the posted speed limit and represents a burden for pedestrians. This wasn't just an accident, it was unsafe design. I have lost track of the number of times in the last year that a driver has put my life at risk. Here are just a few. A driver heading north on Vine turned east on Red onto Main Street mere seconds from killing me on my bike as I headed east on Main Street. A driver heading north off Windsor did not see me as I crossed Philo heading west. Thankfully, they stopped feet from me as I waved my arms at them. Same near miss happened to a graduate student training for the Illinois Marathon this past weekend. I dismounted my bike at Oregon and Vine, heading west, after being unable to safely cross Vine Street for over 3 minutes, thinking if I stood in the crosswalk, which is only on one side of the street at this intersection, with my bright orange jacket, even brighter orange helmet, and yellow fenders, the vehicles would surely stop to let me pass. But rather than slowing or stopping, the vehicles actually drove around me and my bike and into oncoming traffic. Another evening, as I biked home from work up Green Street, heading east behind a slow-moving MTD bus, a giant white truck honked at me, then revved his engine at me, then drove up, yelled obscenities, and took right off Green Street in frustration. Unfortunately, the truck arrived at Race Street behind me because I was moving faster than their crazy moves. This angered him and his fellow passenger so much, they decided to chase after me heading south on Race Street. At this point, being rather shaken up, I safely pulled over to get their plate number, but they got away. Almost every time I bike on Washington by the high school between Race and Vine Street, whether I'm heading west or east, drivers race up behind me, then pass me into oncoming traffic or pedestrians using crosswalks, and they're crossing either north and south. These near misses happen not because Urbana drivers are worse than any other drivers, but because the designs of the roads sacrifices pedestrian and cyclist safety for driver convenience. The reality is that inevitably more pedestrians and cyclists will be severely injured or killed unless we change how streets are designed. The city needs to adopt a Vision Zero Urbana 2030 plan. These deaths are preventable.
Thanks. Audrey Ishii.
Thank you. We've heard reference to the public input yesterday, but I doubt very many of you have had an opportunity to watch it, so I'm just going to play that. I think Jason Rock said all I really need to say at this time. Do we have?
Thank you. So I'm here because I want to talk about the preventable death of Shelley Taylor. When I read the quote attributed to Lieutenant Searles in the News Gazette, all the indications are that this was just a conflict between a driver and a pedestrian. It was just an accident. It's heartbreaking. I got angry. An accident is something that happens unexpectedly and unintentionally. And there's very little about a pedestrian death at the intersection of Main and Vine that can be described as unexpected or unintentional. Let's deal with unintentional first. While of course no driver intends to kill a pedestrian, the reality is that the intersection design at Vine and Main intentionally prioritizes car traffic, and that comes at the cost of pedestrian lives. Most egregiously, the intersection allows right turns on red and left turns without a green arrow, undermining any safety that the walk signals might provide. The intersection is one of the biggest in the city, and both roads and the intersection are designed for moving car traffic and moving it fast. It's well documented that the largest factor in driver speeds is road design, not posted speed limits. And while Vine and Main are both posted 30 miles per hour there, their design undermines that speed limit. As for unexpected, the reality is that I am not surprised that a person died at Vine and Main. I expressed concern for pedestrians' safety on Main and Vine in an October 22nd, 2018 email to Brandon Boys. I wrote, "One thing that is abundantly clear if you spend enough time in Urbana as a resident is that crossing Vine and to a lesser extent Main Street represent a burden for pedestrians. I hope that as part of the development at 200 South Vine, the city is planning to rethink the design of Vine and Main Streets with pedestrians in mind." The most frustrating part of this for me is that I can't shake the feeling that easily a different person could be delivering this speech with the opening lines, "I'm here to talk about the preventable death of Jason Rock." I have lost track of the number of times in the past year that a driver has put my life at risk. A driver leaving a driveway on County Road 1700 North almost sideswiped me. A driver on Main Street in front of the Baptist church passed me with inches to spare because cars were double parked on the street for a funeral. A driver on Main Street near Crane didn't stop when I was crossing at the crosswalk. A driver on Water Street passed me to the right of me at the stop sign and then cut back in front of me while I was on my bike. These near misses happen not because Urbana drivers are worse than any other drivers, but because the designs of the roads sacrifices pedestrian and cyclist safety for driver convenience. The reality is that the next pedestrian or cyclist death in Urbana is a matter of when, not if. I'm begging the city to adopt a Vision Zero plan because these deaths are preventable. And I'm not the only person that feels this way. I'll share some quotes that I've collected in the... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you've got 2
Okay.
minutes. You've got 2 minutes.
All right. I'll share some quotes that I've collected in the past few days from people that couldn't make it to this meeting. Lily Robertson, who lives near Race in Washington, shared, "I was not surprised that someone died at that intersection. I primarily shop at the co-op because I don't want to cross Vine. The fact is that if you're a cyclist or a pedestrian, you have to have constant vigilance, especially in this town. The CU area was built for cars, plain and simple." Reddit user RSK222, a graduate student that lives in Urbana, wrote, "I walk through this intersection quite a bit, and I'm kind of surprised this doesn't happen more often. People often don't slow down or stop to turn right, and they aren't looking for pedestrians in the crosswalk." Keely Wiegand wrote, "The thing that made me maddest was the way Lieutenant Rich Searles said it was just an accident. It wasn't just an accident. It was unsafe design amid car culture that led to a homicide." I'll close with a quote from Northeastern University professor of civil environmental engineering, Peter Firth, who does a lot of work about Vision Zero stuff. "A system that is safe only if people do not make mistakes is not a system designed for humans." The reality is that intersection is a system which is only safe if drivers and pedestrians don't make mistakes, and we've seen what happens because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else? Eric?
Just a comment. Okay, I'm a little feeling a little abashed by talking about procedure because this was a tragedy, but you might want to direct the issue as well as the full council to the Traffic Commission, which is responsible for considering changes in lights, crosswalk, walk configurations, et cetera, like that, and recommending that to the council.
Okay, well, that concludes that statement. I'd just like to add that I'd like to put Vision Zero on the agenda for next month. I think we formed a committee last month, and our report is due next month. There is a website where you can track statistics. It's not as nice as some of the Vision Zero cities where there's a map that you can actually see the crashes and what the outcome was, the date, and whether it was a fatality or crash. Columbia, Missouri has one, but you can go to reportcard.cuots.org and collect the statistics. There's also traffic statistics, so it's a little bit hard to navigate, and I will send information out to the commission about how you pull that data to get up-to-date numbers. But if you go to the report card, you have to look at safety and security rather than traffic to see what the crash statistics are. It's really quite shocking how much they've increased, especially pedestrians. I think it might be, sadly, although a measure of our success here in making the city a much more pedestrian and bike-friendly city. We've got a lot more exposure because the numbers are truly astounding how much they've jumped. They were, around 10 per year up until 2004 when it first started jumping up towards 20. I mean, it's in the high teens. Then in 2016, we had 23, 2011, 22 pedestrian crashes with cars. So there's just been an enormous trend that can partly reflect more people are out, but it also means we've got to do something. We cannot have a pedestrian fatality rate 3 times of Chicago's. That is just not acceptable. We've got to do something, even if it, and that's not wrapping people in cars. Again, it's saying, go on your way. As Jason said, that the streets appear to be designed to move cars. The answer is not to put everyone who's currently walking into a car. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Audrey? You're a member of the committee we made, right?
Yes,
You and
uh-huh.
Jeff and who else?
Cynthia and Jeff aren't here tonight,
Okay.
but
And
we have met.
have you, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess just for the public, we did form a committee last week. We've been talking about Vision Zero. The concept isn't new, but the name is new. Vision Zero is new. We've been talking about the concept for a long time, but we did form a committee last week to look into communicating to the council what the benefits of forming a Vision Zero philosophy and becoming a Vision Zero city would be. And that's something that is a little different for every city, especially a smaller city like us, because one of the first things that Vision Zero tells you to do is collect data. And somewhat fortunately, I guess because we are a small city, we don't have as many crashes and as many fatalities as some of the big cities have to base decisions on. So we rely a lot on standard practices, manuals of uniform traffic devices and things like that, and best practices that we've done over the years. So our implementation of Vision Zero, if we can convince the council to implement it, would look a little bit different than some of the others, and that's what this committee is supposed to be looking at, is how we could implement it the best for our city. Does that summarize it? Okay,
Exactly.
thanks.
How to make it more than just a slogan. Though,
Yeah.
really, even as a slogan, it has a great deal of value.
Yep,
Just to
and half
brand
of its
the efforts
value
that
is,
we're making and point a finger at them and celebrate them. We are doing so much to try to get there, but it's just the mindset. As Jason said, we don't talk about accidents or conflicts between a pedestrian and car. We say, what happened here, you know, what's the visibility, what's the education piece, what's the culture piece? What do we need to do to make sure it never happens again?
And that's part of the, I think part of the things we need to look at is half of the Vision Zero value is the public education and marketing of it, basically. And whether we can do that best as a city, or if we need to do that as a county or regional organization, or join forces with Champaign, or, you know, exactly what level that should occur at most effectively is another question we need to discuss.
Yes.
And one way I always think about it in my head is if I told you someone chased me down Green Street with a gun, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, call the cops. But with a car, you're like, oh, it's a car. You know, if I say I was nearly missed by a bullet on Main Street, oh, don't go near there. Don't, you know, we have immediate reactions to gun, even though the amount of Americans killed by death by gun and death by car are about the same at this point. So we have a problem.
And you were being chased. This wasn't just,
And I was worried if I turned off to a private street.
Well, again, it's a change in mindset that's needed to recognize that roads are for all users, and, yeah, and especially for vulnerable road
Yeah.
users.
It was really, I mean, I'm sure it was, I think it's worth taking just a couple minutes to kind of get our frustrations out on this, because it was really disturbing, I think, to most of us to see that. And it's especially disturbing because we had just fixed that road over the past 10 years in 3 different segments, you know, and put in bike lanes, made a road diet to make it smaller, go through downtown. So to blame the road for it is kind of personal. I mean, I wasn't involved in those early decisions. It started, you know, in 2008 or so was when they started designing the changes to Main Street. But the implementation of it certainly happened over the last 10 years with our complete street policies and everything. And it's still hard, you know, it's still being investigated, and it's hard to imagine how it could happen. But
Well, I'm very doubtful there's any technical flaw in the road design. The issue is a cultural one. You know, are we looking at this as a road, as he said, to move vehicles or to move people? Those might be 2 different things. This road may have been designed before the Starbucks went in. I was worried from the moment that Starbucks went in that made it look like an attractive neighborhood destination, not a strip mall that clearly screams, watch out, I'm for cars. You know, a huge parking lot and strip mall, but here you have this neighborhood coffee shop. I heard yesterday that some middle school kids wanted to celebrate by walking up to the Starbucks. You know, it's an attractive destination in a neighborhood sense, but that intersection was not designed to be a neighborhood intersection. It was designed to move cars effectively.
Yeah. I mean, there is a crosswalk a block and a half down in the middle of the block, but it's not a signalized crosswalk. So if you had a choice, I'd still probably pick the signalized crosswalk, but it's only half the distance to cross if you go down right at Snooks. So depending on when what traffic is and everything.
And I see people always crossing on Main Street at Schnucks. Always. I don't drive very often, but I'll be coming down Main Street and I will see someone standing in the middle of that gigantic intersection in front of the paint store going across. There's always someone crossing there. We need to put a pedestrian island in there. I mean, I always think about this one PSA. Pedestrians do funny things. And they do. But we need to pay attention to that because the street is for them. They paid as many taxes as everybody else for that street. And yet we keep just saying these public spaces are for massive vehicles and we need to take care of their convenience. And it's just not fair. I also do not shop at Schnucks because of the bike pedestrian issue. And I'm surprised the Urbana Business Association hasn't taken it up and been like, we're a gold bike city. Why are we not doing more? It surprises me. But I guess that's not of importance at this moment. But I'll try to cross on Main on that. There's a long, giant crosswalk there as well. You know, I get scared trying to ride my bike. There's an amazing Vietnamese restaurant over there. But I avoid that place. The whole situation's very frustrating, especially since I was almost killed there literally 2 months ago. Like seconds away from being killed, I came home and I was shaking, and I have no place to record this information, no place to upload this information. I knew if I came here to say I was almost killed there, it would be like, oh, well, Annie.
And I just,
Anything else for Audrey? Or
I
Sue?
just, my experience with that intersection is it is just way too huge and wide and fast, because I've been hit by, and again, this wasn't a bad driver, but he was coming, he was making a left and there was too much to look at. He didn't see me at all in my bicycle to go straight, so I wasn't in the right turn lane. And, I mostly got out of the way, so he only clipped me. But that intersection is designed for tons of vehicles at the same time and the massive 2,000-pound kind. It's not designed for all users.
Yeah, I've always been fearful of crosswalks ever since I read most pedestrians that are killed in crosswalks. That may not have been the intent, but I find crosswalks kind of scary. And I don't think most people do. So that's a problem. You're in there and you think, oh, I'm safe. Maybe we need signs telling you are just, you're more likely to be killed here. Maybe that would be a little counterproductive, but that's what I think when I enter a crosswalk, is most pedestrians are killed in crosswalks. This is not a safe zone. I mean, there is a huge education and culture piece that has to happen on all sides, but that's all part of being Vision Zero. How much volunteer energy, how much education energy can we get going for this to make it come true? We had 0 fatalities in 2018. We can do it. We can do it.
And the public's on board. I mean, if you looked at the Facebook posts that were going around and what people were saying and talking about their near misses and how they felt about the intersection, whether in car, bike, or foot, the public is with us on this. And in addition, we've just added 1,700 souls to University Avenue with a lot of parking for some reason. But we are adding, and so we have a chance here to get this right, to create a system of slow-moving vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian traffic. Intersections are the most dangerous place in the system.
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll have the Vision Zero on next month's, a report from the committee on next month's agenda. So that was all the public input cards I have. Did anybody else that came in late want to speak during public input? No? Okay, thanks. Next we have unfinished business. First is expansion of sidewalk shoveling zones. So the state of that was in December. I showed what the current shoveling zones were, and we were talking about trying to increase them and finding new areas that would be effective and where people would comply. if we made it mandatory as we did in the other areas. So did anybody, we did send out maps later, I think in January, that you could mark. Did anybody do that? Do you want me to bring it up on the screen? Or I have a few paper maps. How about if I pass out the paper maps and we just talk about it? I don't know which one would be easier to read. There's one with aerial photo and one without. So. Okay, you can give it to Audrey. So does anybody want to start by kind of suggesting some areas? I could suggest a couple if you want me to start. Okay. I would suggest Broadway from where it's the current requirement stops at Water, so go on up Broadway to Park Street. So that would connect with the Park Street path that the Park District is currently building. Other than that, I thought maybe Vine Street, kind of that same direction to go up toward, I don't know if we could go as far as Crystal Lake Drive, but expand that to the north. I'll start with those. Anybody else want to add some? I think the idea is we were going to try to come up with a list of additions or areas or even philosophies, if you want to draw a big box and say everything within this box. Or I think the safe route to school would be a little bit hard to do all that. So I think if you want to pick a few of those, it might make sense. But whatever we come up with, we would have to kind of formalize and then make it as a suggestion for the council to have staff look at it and see what's feasible, make sure that the sidewalks there are ADA or whatever they need to check, and then they would probably come back and we would make a recommendation to the city council then based on all that. And that would always also depend on staff availability and have to probably get some buy-in from the city manager and stuff. But so this is kind of a first step. So I'd say just come up with like a first priority, and then if we want, maybe add a second priority. So anybody else have some first priorities they want to suggest?
Bill, are you suggesting that the city shovels these?
No, these are
okay.
No. The city already shovels a few downtown sidewalks. The university shovels the ones that are in blue on your map. And the dark red ones are the ones where our ordinance requires the businesses or adjacent landowners to shovel. The Safe Walk to School is just routes that have been developed through that program, and it's suggested that residents along those areas suggest they shovel those sidewalks, but there's no requirement or anything. So what we're talking about is trying to expand the red lines, make the mandatory shoveling by commercial and even homeowners on those routes, increase those.
So the biggest thing we're looking for is connectivity between activities.
I think so. I mean, there's been some new development. There's been there's really no connectivity to Crystal Lake Park, so I think it makes sense to try to connect that. There's development on University we could consider, in even North Lincoln, where the bus stops are there. So if there's maybe, I don't know, I want to suggest all of west side of Lincoln, that whole sidewalk from 1 North down to University Avenue.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like the whole university just seems so not, it's like nothing. And that's just going to be, that's got so much development on it now that they need to be able to walk.
Okay.
But I was kind of wondering, thinking of school access, would we prefer to have it be like Vine to access, like that, so then they'd be on the sidewalks there instead of maybe, going to the streets, which would be pretty heinous.
And also like bus routes, I think Green Street would be a good target because of VIMCOR. That'll.
Do you want me to take this back to the Park District and have someone mark up what we routinely clear?
We're kind of assuming you clear everything around the parks, but is that true?
It sort of happens in a sequence, and for example, there's a really small crew on weekends, so we do like all of our facilities, but then it may not be until the Monday until like park paths get cleared.
Oh, okay.
So some of them always yes, other times it might be a little while. But
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to get some input, and yeah, if they have any suggestions.
so like for example, along the east and south sides of Blair, those are always done, and that's on a safe route. So
Where was
that's
that?
good. Along Blair, on the
Oh,
east
Blair,
and
yeah.
south sides, along Vine and Florida.
And usually the walkway on Broadway at Crystal Lake Park is done.
Mhm.
There's bus routes there. Yeah, Fairlawn you only have sidewalks to Anderson, I think, on Fairlawn. Then there's no sidewalks.
Yeah, they do a good job on Fairlawn.
Oh, do they? That's all Fairlawn Village there, isn't it? Yeah.
Because the thing, you could do Fairlawn to Anderson and then make sure that was clear to get to school.
So do they generally do both sides of the street on the routes?
Not necessarily. Well,
Because that would be, I think that would be a good thing, especially, well, I think it would be a good thing that both sides of the street done.
I mean, not on South Philo Road, so from Silver South to Windsor. I'm not even sure if there's a sidewalk. There's sidewalks in some of that, I think. But that's not required. It doesn't, I mean, it makes sense in some areas like Broadway, but I don't know about Lincoln. The only problem with requiring it on both sides of Lincoln is you're going to get a lot of homeowners and people rendering in stuff that probably aren't going to comply very well.
Yeah, I think we should like go for the low-hanging fruit, and then when it, because if it becomes one of those things that now we have to enforce it and make a lot of people unhappy, we'll get a lot of kickback. And they'll say, like, why can't people walk over there where the businesses are?
Yeah, I mean, I was
And-
kind of thinking about that too. I'd like to say all of Florida Avenue to like from Philo to Race, but it's almost all individual property owners. They go on vacations and then they'll complain and everything. And you do kind of want to be reasonable and make it work.
And, I mean, we're trying to change the culture, and so you don't change the culture by shoving it down their throats.
Yeah, at least with businesses, it's a plus for them because it makes their business more accessible and everything.
And then we could ramp it, because I hate being, let's not push too hard, but let's, it'll make so much difference if we can get a good side clear. And if, I guess the other thing I'm thinking of, if we can get a bunch of business, then that'll be better than we can't get everything. So if we get more, if people start to expect clear sidewalks, that's when we'll start changing the culture.
So the Park District, how's East Washington, like, for the school there? Is some of that Park District sidewalk? Is that Prairie Park? No.
Along the south side of Prairie.
Yeah.
I am not sure if we clear
And
that or
some of
not.
that's county. Most of that's probably county. I don't know
Yeah.
if they-
So the Prairie softball diamonds we own, but as you get over towards Brookins, those soccer fields are just rented from the county land. So at some point it transitions from what we own to what the county owns.
Yeah.
And how do individuals know that they are on this Gotta Shovel My Walk program?
Well, most of it's most of its businesses are downtown or on campus or Philo Road. So those are the three areas we have. We have maps of that on the website. And I don't remember, I don't know if they're actually, we just make an announcement like within after it's snowed 2 inches, there's an announcement that the snow shoveling is in effect. And then I guess I don't know how they originally find out they're on the route, but once they find out, they know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's, when all those were established, I think there was a public process
Yeah.
that gave them some feedback. And then once council selected, then, as you indicated, there's a map. And then the Public Works Director submits a press release at that time. And then we have a environmental compliance officer that does an inspection. And then we'll send out notices to those folks if they don't comply.
But the sidewalk, the snow shoveling ordinance isn't part of the zoning ordinance, is it? So there's not really a public hearing about it. So if it's part of zoning, then each property owner on the route would have to get a notice as part of that public process. So we'd probably just have to, if this came to council to actually implement it, then we'd have to make sure we'd made a good effort to get the word out to people along those routes. Even if it's not an official mailing, we'd have to make sure that they were aware that we were going to discuss it so they could provide input. Yeah.
I have to wonder if we couldn't do like a public service, just make it like a public service thing, like odd one snowfall, even the next snowfall, almost like this like game. Like this is, I'm just really not used to living in cities where you don't have to shovel your walk. So it's just like, I've never lived in a city where it's not like just you shovel your walk. You shovel your walk. And then if you don't, people really are angry at you. And so it's strange for me. So it's like, I suspect if people aren't used to shoveling their walks, I have to wonder if it's not even more about like a public service campaign of, okay, it's a big snowfall, we're going to all shovel the odd side of the street this time. And next time it's the even side, like just to try to get people in the habit of shoveling, because it just seems like we need to get more shovels out there, more like...
It'd be kind of hard to keep track of. It'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun to... I've tried that on the WUNA list before, because you have like one or two streets, like Illinois or Oregon, going east-west to get you over to... You could kind of organize your neighborhood to say, okay, let's try to get Oregon clear from Race Street to Lincoln. And sometimes that kind of works, but...
Hey, Bill. So I'm a little late, but no, it's not a part of the zoning ordinance.
What?
You asked whether it was a part of the zoning ordinance, and no, it's
not.
not.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. It's not. Yeah, I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think with the Safe Routes to School, they can do a little bit more of that. They do some fun. They have some flexibility to do something fun now and then and try new things every year. They put out signs saying, thanks for shoveling your walk, and I think they try to prioritize some of these routes, like on Washington Street. But okay, do you want to just start with that? I can write up a draft of. I can just write up a draft of a resolution that we could pass, saying we support the expansion of these snow routes and list what we want to add. And then when I bring that back, we can add to that if we want. We can amend it. And if anybody has anything else they want to add right now?
Has MTD given input on popular bus stops that have heavy snow leading up to them?
No, Cynthia might know.
Because I know struggling to the bus stop is an
that's
issue
why I was
in
kind of
some
thinking
places.
on Broadway there. I've seen people standing out in the streets because the sidewalks aren't clear and there's no bus pad or anything there.
But then
Anderson might have something like that too. I don't know. Do people stand out in the streets on Anderson?
Well, where I am, I mean, the bus doesn't go down where I am on Anderson. Yeah, but then it does go down. Yeah, but I don't think, okay, there's no problem at Anderson and Fairlawn because that's at Fairlawn and they clear it. And I'm trying to think, like, up a little further, I do not remember seeing people, because I'd be out there waiting and I'd look and they wouldn't be in the street. So I think things were okay. You know, partly because of the whole safe routes to school thing where, you know, we pushed hard to get people to make sure they could get to the school up there. And so that's, you know, people do a pretty decent job. And even if they just shovel their driveways, then that's where they're standing, not out in the
Oh,
street.
yeah, that's true.
But I do hear concerns from people about Washington and people walking in the streets, students trying to get to school and walking in the streets on Washington. So I don't know. I know we have a bike lane there, so I guess that street would get plowed and at least students could walk in the bike lane. So there's that.
Okay.
I've seen people struggling getting off the bus on Green Street.
Is your microphone on, Nancy?
I can't.
Yeah, it's on.
I've seen people struggling on Green Street, getting off the bus between, say, Lincoln and Race, just at the corners, just trying to find, well, partly it's the sidewalks and partly it's the shoveling they've had issues
Okay.
with. But hopefully MCOR will
Yeah,
take care of that.
I think that would, I think it
I
would
think
make
Green
sense.
Street should be a priority.
Yeah.
Green Street and University should be priorities.
Okay.
And then the thing, like, you know, you're not being used to places where it's not expected. The more we can have places where it's done and it's done well, the more likely people will start to say, why can't we have sidewalks that are clear?
And we could do like we do the rain barrel giveaway, you know, it's a discounted price, but there's no reason why the city couldn't do like a shovel giveaway at a discounted price. I mean, and it's kind of funny to me, like, we actually only had one, my husband and I had this big plan to go out and shoveling Washington, because we don't shovel on our street, there's no sidewalk. So we were like, oh, we'll go shovel Washington, it'll be fun, and we didn't realize till we got up the next morning we only had one shovel. And which is funny, now we have two, but I have to wonder if we didn't do like some cool like pink or green or some like branded shovel that was, I mean, they're $5 at Walmart. There's no reason why we couldn't probably get a discounted shovel and hand them out to people and say, shovel your walk, encourage you to shovel your walk. So just an idea.
Okay, thanks. I'll bring that back to a future meeting, if not next month, the month after. Next, we have Lincoln and Springfield resurfacing project. Craig.
Okay, good evening. Almost a year ago, I came to this commission to present some preliminary design for the Lincoln and Springfield resurfacing project, and you folks had asked me to bring it back when we were near completion of the design, which we are at this point. The two things I want to accomplish here is to walk you through the design that we have, let you know of the schedule, and then also discuss some action that'll be requested concerning brick sidewalk conversion to concrete per city ordinance. So the limits of the project, when you look at the map here, and I'll zoom in detail here, but on the southern end is Green Street down here at the tail. Lincoln runs north-south. We have Springfield here, which goes 1 block west to Gregory, where the hand is here, to 2 blocks east to just shy of Kohler. We go up through the Stoughton-Lincoln intersection, up through the Lincoln and Main intersection, up through the Lincoln and Clark intersection, and we stop just shy of University Avenue, where the touchdown will be with the IDOT improvement project there. Before I zoom in, several deficiencies were noted throughout the project. We had complaints at Lincoln and Springfield concerning some pedestrian push buttons there. and their operation or some deficiencies thereof. We had had some concerns at Lincoln and Stoughton with pedestrians trying to cross the street there, east and west. Lincoln and Main had been notified or identified as a problem intersection within the bicycle pedestrian master plan. It also made the Champaign County Bikes map as a problem intersection. And then up at Clark, before I zoom in there, the northeast corner and southeast corners, that's where the new rail development called to Gather will be going in here in the near future. Let me zoom in. So we'll go start at the southern end and walk our way up. So I'm going to zoom in and hopefully you all can see everything we have here. So this is the intersection of Lincoln and Green. The MCOR project improved the corners here of this intersection and then also went a little bit to the east. The Project 5 MCOR will be just to the east of this and go down to downtown Urbana at Ray Street. So can you see enough detail there? You want me to zoom in a little bit more? Let me see if I can. About right there? Okay. Start at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is going to sidewalks along the entire side of Lincoln to make them ADA compliant. The east side, we do not have the funding to do that, make those ADA compliant, but we will be doing curb ramps at every intersection corner. So we'll have compliant sidewalks all along the western side. Let me walk up through here. We've narrowed the vehicle lanes from 12-foot lanes to 11-foot lanes throughout the whole project. So basically up to Springfield, we have spot locations. That's what you see in blue here, where we're going to remove sidewalk that is not compliant with the American Disabilities Act and put those in compliance. As we get to the Lincoln and Springfield intersection, we're going to install new crosswalks, slightly configured different than prior. We'll have new corner ramps that'll be 2-point ramps, which means that they will each have their individual detectable warnings. We'll also have new pedestrian push buttons at that intersection. As we go farther north here and we get to Stoughton, what we're doing here is we're going to remove the northbound left turn lane on the south side and install a pedestrian island. You see signs there for pedestrians. We would have a crosswalk on the south leg. We do see, as I had said before, students primarily walking east-west to campus through here. We also are going to tighten up some of the intersection corners, particularly the southeast and the southwest. You can see where, if you track my hand here, that's where the existing is. We're going to bring them in and tighten it up quite a bit, which will help shorten this crossing distance. And then, as I said, we'll have a pedestrian island in the middle here. We will not be encouraging pedestrians to cross on the north side, at least disabled folks. Able-bodied people could still cross there, but really they need to consolidate and go to the south to safely cross. The purpose of doing that at this location is the pedestrian volume did not warrant a crosswalk on the north side. By consolidating the movements, then it makes a predictable location for everybody to know where to cross, and also the motor vehicle traffic will know where pedestrians are at. What you see in red there at the various corners are brick sidewalks that will be removed and replaced in kind at those locations. Those are all per ordinance, where we would have to get the city or each property owner's approval to change from brick to concrete. So we're instead putting back the brick basically the way they are. So there is no net loss of brick sidewalks at this location. As we go up further to the north and we get up to the Lincoln and Main Street intersection, we have some innovative things going on here. We're radically, I will say radically, bringing in the intersection corners. You can see the old ones were way back here. We've tightened these up quite a bit to shorten the crossing distance. We have more green space. That's where you'll see the green here. The other thing we're doing is we're making basically a shared use path east and west. A bicyclist, if you follow here, would be coming down this bike route. You know, a more experienced bicyclist could stay on the road. That's certainly fine. But somebody that felt more comfortable could get on this multi-use path here and then go to the intersection corner stop. They would have a pedestrian island in the middle, and then they could go back across and then merge back into the bike route to the west. Same thing to the east. They can merge back in, go on the multi-use path, and then go across the road, and then come back into the bike route. We have a fair amount of bicyclists and pedestrians that attempt to cross this on a daily basis, this road on a daily basis. The existing median is fairly narrow, so we'll widen that out with these teardrop kind of shaped islands here on the north and the south. The reason there is crosswalks on the north and the south is merely that the demand is there for that.
Is that where the push button signal is at Main Street?
No, there's not. There's nothing there.
I mean,
now.
is that where we aren't going to put one there?
There will not be a push button
Oh,
signal.
okay.
No, there will not. We have warrants for those, and it did not meet the criteria to install that. I want to point out here, we'll have, as the bicyclist leaves the road and enters into the multi-use path, they'll yield. This is somewhat similar to the MCOR Project 1 kind of configuration where, you know, they're to yield, and then on the pedestrian would say look for bike, and then as they go across the road and come back, then they're yielding to get into the road, and then we have warning signs for the vehicles that, hey, you know, the bicyclists are entering the road, re-entering the road at that location. Same thing on the north side. I'll come back to this corner here to talk more about the brick sidewalk, because that's where I'll need some guidance from BPAC on that. Going further to the north, about this property line is where the rail development will start. With that improvement, and that'll be entirely on these several parcels here, and also to the north. We've asked the developer to remove the existing sidewalk, which is adjacent to the curb. There's a retaining wall there. They're going to remove that also and install a new sidewalk with a 5-foot parkway. Well, that will pull the pedestrian away from the road, which is not ideal. That sidewalk will be installed on a permanent easement within the development, and the easement will be granted to the city. You can see a dashed line here. That's really the concept at this time. This is sort of the building layout, but it's actually more the setback, the 15-foot setback line. When we get up to Clark, we felt with this new development here and here that we would have demand. This is based upon the traffic impact study that was performed by the development. And we would, again, put a south leg refuge island with a crosswalk here on the south leg. We'd also significantly pull in the curb here quite a bit on the corners. With the development, we'll have some coordination where the city will build the corner radiuses. We'll put in some temporary sidewalks to get pedestrians through. In the short term, the developer then will come through and remove those sidewalks entirely and build new sidewalks with their development. And that was part of the negotiations that we had with the developer. At this location too, on the west side, we have some brick sidewalks that we're going to take out and put back, so there's no net loss of brick sidewalks at this location. And then as we go farther north, nothing really changes much here, and this would be the location by Einstein Bagels where the project would end, and then the University Avenue project would begin. Let's swing back
Are they going
down.
to put a bigger sidewalk there along the development?
Over here.
Yeah.
It's slated right now as this is the setback line, so this would be a 5-foot walk.
Okay.
And then a 5-foot grass area.
I think currently it's like a 3-foot walk.
It's pretty narrow,
Okay.
yeah, and it's right up adjacent to the road. I've walked this several times. It's not ideal at all to be walking as a pedestrian adjacent to the traffic there. Let's pull back down to Springfield Avenue, and I'll walk you from west to east there and show you what we have. So this is the Springfield and Gregory intersection here. We've identified, when we go out and we assess these sidewalks, we look at areas where there's sidewalk ponding. We've identified some ponding here where there was some goat paths or cow paths where students were walking around because there's water sitting in the sidewalk. We're going to, we try to, even though our project physically ends here, we're going to go and take and repair that sidewalk at that location. Here we'll have ADA compliant sidewalks on the south side of Springfield all the way through the project. We have a lot of deteriorated curb that we're going to remove and replace. We have some chemical reactions occurring there where it's basically falling apart. As we move to the east here, and we get back down to Springfield and Busey, we're going to install a new bus pad at the southwest corner, which will be sort of a companion to there's a bus pad over at the northeast corner with a shelter. This will not have a shelter, but it will be a new pad where the pedestrians can sit before they alight or leave the bus. We'll have new corner ramps here at Springfield and Busey as well. And moving to the east, we're also identified a sight distance visibility concern at this location right here on the northeast corner. We had a few accidents at this intersection. And what we're doing is the Traffic Commission has recently approved the removal of some parking in here and moving it back basically 70 feet so that there could be at least some better visibility, which will allow a vehicle to safely stop if a vehicle departs Busey. That will be coming forward to the City Council here in the next month or so for approval. As we go east, we also will be further delineating the parking. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all out there. We will be actually installing some parking ticks to identify where people should park and shouldn't park. As we go to the east, this is about where we stop right here, and then the Kohler and Springfield intersection is not included. That would be included in a future project down the road where we might look at bump outs further here because we do see some pedestrians crossing the road, but that's outside the scope. Before I get into the brick sidewalk issue, is there any questions then about the what you see here today?
I have a question. Where I see all the pedestrians crossing signs,
Yes.
There will be a white bar for cars to stop, and it will say "Stop for pedestrians" here, right?
No, it will not. It will just be a warning sign. The stop here for pedestrian signs have certain applicability. This would not be an appropriate location for that. These will be warning signs that are warning the motorists that pedestrians could cross. The stop here for pedestrians in the city of Urbana have been primarily used within the university district and also adjacent to the schools. We have not used them at any other location throughout the city. On an arterial road of this magnitude, that would not be an appropriate application.
Because I think one of the problems I have crossing Vine is the cars don't know where to stop. One of the problems I have crossing Lincoln is the cars don't know where to stop. And I think by just, when I drive down Lincoln and I see this flashing LED sign and it's, oh, I don't know, like I honestly get confused and I honestly don't know how or where to stop for pedestrians. And I really feel giving cars a bar and saying this is where you stop to allow pedestrians to cross, this is a safe place to cross, is incredibly helpful for vehicular drivers. And I don't think we're going to get compliance with any of this, and we're going to get complaints and we're going to get injuries. And I also just want to know, we're not planning on any increased demand. We're just designing for existing demand for pedestrians and cyclists. We're not planning on increased demand on Lincoln Avenue for bicycles, I'm assuming. I'm assuming we want bicycles to bike on the sidewalk, right? Am I correct?
The pedestrian master plan does not indicate any improvements along Lincoln.
So we want cyclists on the sidewalk, and we don't want increased cyclist or pedestrian movement. Yeah, got it. So we're not planning for increase, we're planning for just existing.
Is there any other comments?
I just concur that it's really kind of confusing as to what you're supposed to do. And who has, like, I'm in a car, am I supposed to yield to them or not? And if there's no...
Let me clarify, there will not be flashing lights. These will not have flashing
Right.
lights. They're a warning sign, and a warning sign indicates that if a pedestrian enters the crosswalk, then you then have the legal obligation as a vehicle to stop.
But the sign, do they say that?
That's state law.
Right, and that's what it is not what, most people don't really know that. They're confused.
And they don't know where to stop. They don't know if they should stop up against the lot. I mean, I have people on Lincoln, like, throwing me the finger. I have people driving around me. It's an incredibly dangerous situation, and it's very frustrating to be on a bike or a pedestrian, and people are going to get injured with this infrastructure.
Anyone else? For the stop here, I have some people found that confusing too, because people will just stop. They see the stop and they stop, even if there's no pedestrian ready to enter. So I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion either way on that. I wonder sometimes the size of the signs sometimes can block visibility, and I wonder on those islands if there's some kind of consideration for that. Will they be high enough where you'll have good visibility if you're a regular 6 or 7 foot tall person to be able to see?
The bottom of signs, these signs will be installed 7 foot above the ground.
Okay.
I do see this and see people slowing down, and that's a huge improvement, but it's still scary.
Yeah, I think the fact that you're building out all the corners so people can't turn as quickly is definitely going to help. And you narrowed the vehicle lanes, too, to make it more uncomfortable to drive quickly. So I do appreciate the accommodation for all modes of transportation. And I'm not completely sure about, like, the confusion for cars. I thought, like, having the crosswalk is usually... I just stop before the crosswalk. So at least there's something there delineating the fact that people should be paying attention and stopping. So I appreciate the attention to detail.
I wonder if a video similar to the bike box would be useful for stopping at crosswalks.
So with the brick sidewalk, I want to show, before we go back, let me go to that. So the city has an ordinance on brick sidewalks, and this is a map that we have published in our capital improvement plan. Let me zoom in here. So the sidewalks that you see in black are sidewalks that have to, you have to receive the property owner's permission to convert those to concrete. This location down here is Stoughton, and we're going to basically put the sidewalks back the way they were, so there's no net loss of bricks. The sidewalks at Clark the same way. At the ones in red here at Main, that is a sidewalk that requires city council authorization to remove the brick. So I want to go back to this location here. On the southeast corner, this green, you can't hardly see it here, but there's sections of brick through here. We're going to put the brick back starting here, and in the end, we've got a few sections of concrete. In the end, we'll have a net actually increase of brick at the southeast corner, so we're okay at that location. We will not have brick within the multi-use path where the bicyclists ride. The issue is this northeast corner. There is a section of brick here in green. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. So this right here is of concern because it falls within the multi-use path. And the only part that we could really restore would be this small piece here. This is brick to the east here. So I wanted to get your folks' thought on this. It's been my understanding that bricks are not the best for bicyclists to be riding on, and they can slide, particularly if there's frost. I would ask the commission to consider endorsing the conversion of this location to concrete. And then if the commission would do so, then I'll be taking that to the city council for consideration.
That sounds reasonable to me. I mean, otherwise it'd be like this seam down the middle, right?
Right.
Where the bricks and the
Right.
and the concrete connect. Thinking about Main Street, it's not currently marked for bicycle side. It's not currently marked for bikes at all, is it?
No, it's a bike route. It's an unofficial bike route, but we don't have any signs yet.
Okay.
But it gets a ton
Yeah, it does
of
get a
traffic.
lot of
I mean,
use.
it is,
Is
it's
there a
sort of
way
like
to-
Anderson, where it's, they don't need to mark it because so many bicyclists are on there. We create our own safety.
I just hope that bicyclists don't think that they're forced to use the walk there. I think, it's a good option for people that would feel more comfortable in the crosswalk, but I think merging back into the main street, if there's vehicle traffic, is not ideal. So I think to be safe, I mean, if you feel safe, I think I'd just stay on Main Street. So I just hope, I don't know if, I was going to suggest putting a Sharrow there, but there's no other markings on Main Street anywhere for bikes. I don't know if that would make sense, but
Right.
yeah, as far as the bricks go, maybe we should, is there a motion from somebody to recommend to City Council that section of brick be converted to concrete?
I would move that section of brick be converted to concrete so that it's better for bicycle traffic.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Moved by Sue and seconded by Audrey. Any more discussion on that?
My thinking is that bicyclists like you and I are just going to naturally stay on the road, especially because it's been there for so long, and that other people will be happy to have an alternative. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. And I'm curious as to what the expectations will be. Like, are people going to be more hostile to me because I'm not on the sidewalk?
And it's not marked, yes.
I don't know if they will there, because I don't know how obvious it is
There's
to
so much bike
drivers.
traffic there that it really is the norm. It's kind of like on campus.
Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor of recommending to City Council that that section of brick sidewalk be converted to concrete, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thanks.
So the next step is the schedule. Right now, we have it submitted for environmental clearances. We will be doing some more environmental up and down the corridor. There's easement acquisition that has to occur. And then the bigger issue is the east leg of Maine is a historic district, and as a result, we will, there's a possibility the State Historic Preservation Officer will get involved with this project. There's a high likelihood that I'll be taking this project to the Urbana Historic Preservation Commission for consideration. And we'll have to get all these approvals before we can then release the project to bid.
Have you talked to that property owner?
I have not. I do intend to get their feedback as well. Yeah, I'll be talking with them, and probably if I zoom out a little bit, I'll talk with 816 and 814. We'll go ahead and probably get with 812 and 813 and 811 and 809, just so they're aware of the project as well.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments on this plan? I think we asked before if there's enough room for a bicyclist to stop in that pedestrian
Yes.
refuge island, and
Yes.
there just is, right? Like
Yeah,
5 feet
the
or something?
minimum pedestrian islands that we designed, the minimum width is 6 foot,
6 feet.
which is enough for a
Maybe not
bicyclist.
Sue's bike, but most people's bike is
Yeah.
less than 6 feet.
Right, if you have a trailer, I actually have seen bicyclists go to that island and turn perpendicular and align themselves and put their tire up on it and let the cars go by and then turn. So. So pending clearances, there's a possibility we can start this project this year, and then it'll be wrapped up in 2020.
Oh, yeah, Audrey?
What is the design regulation again that prevents putting a bar for giving cars guidance where to stop?
There's certain, so here's the thing, folks. We use selective treatments at locations. Everything is thought out, that we follow warrants, we follow criteria. If you present, if you use items that are not appropriate at certain items that or locations, you can actually then impact the locations of where you already have things. So we have to be thoughtful about how we do things. And that's the reason that we follow these certain approaches through there. Now, that being said, I'll go back and reinvestigate because the commission had asked me to do so. But everything that we do is, as engineers, as a licensed engineer, is thought out. That's just the way we do it. So, an easy way is to say, well, we just do that everywhere. But then what happens is the reality of it, and no matter what you want to do, you're trying to change a culture, right? And this is an improvement, even though there are some that don't like it. It is an improvement over what is there now. I can tell you that over 5 years ago, all we would have done was a few ramps, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So we should keep that in mind, that the city's willing to invest what they are willing to invest here. It may, it may not be appropriate for everybody. Maybe people don't like it, but I feel comfortable as a professional engineer that I'm improving the situation here.
Yeah, I'd love to see the culture change so that people felt comfortable. I guess I'm thinking of a car stops, you have to be mindful of the car behind you. That their awareness that, hey, there's a sign here, this car might just stop, and I won't necessarily know why, but, they're slowing and they're going to stop. And it's amazing to me how recently I realized that stress levels for everyone can be reduced by stopping well back from it, but then you might get a car behind you really irate that you're stopping well back, but yet I just see that I don't have to put up with that scared rabbit look from the pedestrian if I've stopped way back from the crosswalk, and I'm not sure how the people behind me feel about it, but it's a culture shift that to my amazement, I only recently figured that out. Hey, I just reduce everyone's stress if I just, stop back here. As far as I know, I haven't been honked at from behind yet. But I was going to also mention on Main Street, the bike traffic is so heavy, I've actually been right hooked by a bike. So I was like, that's a first. The bike from the left just turned right in front of me going to Busey. But, and I have heard get up on the sidewalk. The helpful person has screamed at me from the street. But I take it into consideration that they're concerned about my safety. Yeah.
The way I view it is this gives folks an option. Like I said, the more experienced cyclists can stay on the road. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing in this, as you see signage, that says mandatorily you have to get off the road. There's nothing at all. It's optional too. And there's a fair amount of pedestrians that walk this too, not just bicycles. There's, throughout here. Any other comments then?
I was just going to say Champaign aggressively uses stop for pedestrians all around campus and on really high roads, and they work really well. I watch it every day. There's a coffee shop I go to frequently, and I just watch the cars stop, and they stop. Cars stop, and then they keep going.
And Urbana has those too.
Yeah, and just to me, it's like the biggest issue I have when I drive down Lincoln Avenue and I see the big pedestrian crosswalk sign ahead is I don't know where to stop. I don't know how to stop. I don't know when I'm supposed to stop. So I honestly just keep going. So I assume I'm not the only vehicular driver who's doing that. And it could be why when I try to cross Vine, cars don't stop for me. They don't know where to stop or how to stop. And so maybe it's not even a stop for pedestrian sign. Maybe it's just a line where it's like some sort of place to just know, oh, this is the safe distance to slow down, and maybe people will just get used to slowing down there. I really do have concerns that if we don't put a line in there, there are going to be injuries here. So that's all.
Yeah, I would agree that this is a wonderful improvement. It's exceedingly mindful of pedestrians. It makes people aware there's pedestrians, but I am worried because we have seen the pedestrian crash rates going up. And so, we're getting pedestrians out there, but what do we, it's almost like,
Well, it's like, are we prioritizing their movement, or are we saying the 7 cars that have gone by are more important than the 14 people standing to cross the street? It's just a, who's the prioritized movement here? That's really what this gets down to.
Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
New business. Lily Wilcox will talk about the bike share intergovernmental agreement.
Hey, everybody. Boy, I miss all these awesome infrastructure updates. Craig's so cool and interesting, and all of you are interesting. So I'm going to make this kind of short. Last year, there was an IGA that was implemented between the University of Illinois, the City of Urbana, and the City of Champaign. Remember that I was working at the university and doing a lot of that scribbling. And now I'm here to say that there's the option to either let an IGA auto-renew, or we make a couple changes. And so I've talked to City Council and got a little bit of feedback, but I'd love to get some feedback from you, and I'm going to present a couple of options, things that we, as the 3 parties, are considering as possible changes, and I'd love to hear your feedback. If we're going to change something. All right, so I'm pulling up the current IGA, and I've highlighted a couple things in here, and I'm just going to go through them with you really fast as to what could be proposed changes. The first proposed change, there's two general comments. Should the word dockless be included? The idea being in here, this might actually be read the same way as from dockless, or whether if it was in there or if it wasn't in there, if we're talking about bike share companies in the community. I don't know if there was any comments or opinions, anything? If not, I'm going to move to the next one. All right, next one, sole provider option was discussed in the past. I will give a little bit of background to that. Sole provider option was strongly disfavored by Champaign City Council when they were asked about it. So they're not the whole party but that is a big concern with if we are all completely for a sole provider, that might be an issue. So any thoughts about the sole provider issue? There's no, other than this comment right here, there's really no specifics in the rest of the language about sole provider. Really, and that's just basing it off of, again, there's two other parties here, and their considerations as well. Anything?
I guess how would that work? Whether you have to rebid it then and say?
No, if
or just first come, first serve. Since they're here first, we aren't going to allow anybody else in. Is that?
That could be done either way. So it could go to an RFP process, and it could be anybody, including the operator, ViaRide, who is in good standing with the city of Urbana, as well as the other two parties. Or it could be, it could go to ViaRide, and we could, based on what the interactions that we've had and everything, we could write it into the IGA.
Yeah, I'd be kind of reluctant, I guess, to go with sole provider at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if we went with the sole provider, it would be because we'd be part of a profit-sharing agreement, and we would work closely to make sure that all three parties were, and then also the business, of course, would be doing something like that, and we'd work on branding and other things, I think, if we did a sole provider.
That would be probably a much more complicated rewrite, for sure. No, I love the comments. Thank you so much. All right, so thank you so much. The second proposed one, and this is truly just coming from the city of Urbana, aka me, but please provide comments, and that's not saying this is what council will approve, or the other three parties will be like, wow, sounds great. Other two parties. Providing affordable transportation alternatives to all residents. It's something that I've heard in public meetings many, many times. It gets to the end of the conversation as an afterthought, and generally it maybe most of the time is brought up by myself, and then people are like, wow, that's a great idea. This is a very affordable form of transportation. I think a lot of you in here have mentioned that bicycles as a whole are affordable forms of transportation, but ViaRide, even with its electric bicycle, is probably significantly more cost savings than your average used car. So,
I might take out all. Like,
to all,
Actually,
okay,
I was
yeah.
going to say that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite parts of that, because I'm concerned that some bike shares will see that 90% of their use is on campus and start eliminating some of the outside areas. So I guess I would favor leaving all in there.
Thank you.
It's more of a picky, like I'd be like, well, there's got to be somebody that's not really an alternative for, but
Well, if you don't have a smartphone, it's not for you.
it's not an alternative
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, this is, in the whereases, it's kind of the aspirational parts of these.
Yes, the recitals.
There's nothing written in laws because it's a whereas.
Yeah, I
So
probably
it's
should.
kind of aspirational and informative about the reason behind the conclusions, and therefore be it resolves and stuff is kind of building up to that. But it establishes a basis. I think that this is what we want to see. We want to see it for all residents, And even if that you currently have to have a smartphone, yeah, we would love it if you could come up with a card or something they could use. But it also gives us a little bit of leverage to go back, and if somebody's blatantly abusing it, we can say, look, this is our reasoning behind this, so we may need to tighten up the law, and we'd have the law, we'd have backing and reason to do that.
And just to piggyback off of that, in other parts at the university and the city of Urbana, and I can't speak to Champaign, we do ask to be striving for these kinds of aspirational goals. So there is in the recitals, it's exactly what Bill said. It's kind of the aspirational parts of why a public agency would enter into a contract and an agreement. And as you can see right above it, it says positive effect of reducing urban traffic, improving mobility, reducing automobile parking demand, reducing pollution. And this is just something that has not come up, but it is something that when it does come up, people are like, yeah, actually, now that I think about it,
That's
I do
huge,
see
right?
a lot of those
I
bikes.
just would say like a wide range of residents instead of
Yes.
everyone.
Yes. I was at a Learman Park Pump Up Your Bike event this weekend, and there were a lot of people using Veo rides, and a lot of people who had said if they weren't on a Veo ride, they're like, oh yeah, I've tried those. So that's exciting. That is definitely a community development target area in the city of Urbana. All right, so thank you for those notes. Let's keep moving. More recitals. They're so much fun. So we get into section 1, which is definitions. I'm just kind of keeping the frame, because sometimes when you're looking at agreements, they can sections, and then there's subsections, and there's subsections, and there's subsections. And by the time you pull yourself out, you're like, which section am I in? Section 2 is very short. We're just talking about joint licensing program. Section 3, lead agency. One thing that was discussed very briefly in Urbana and a little bit at the City of Champaign, much more so at the City of Champaign City Council meeting, was the idea that maybe they should charge more money to the company as a part of their application fee, and not just Veo Ride, anyone who does apply. I will say that, and I've mentioned this to the Urbana City Council, that with the $600 that it gets divvied up. So $300 goes to Champaign, and 1/4 of the fee being distributed to Urbana, 1/4 of the fee being distributed to the university, which is not all the money the university is getting from the bike share company. Don't rest assured, they're getting their due. That would leave Urbana being really the people who are getting $150. I will say, for as far as community development is concerned, in our perspective, we usually charge around $200 or so for planning cases, and they take, as far as staff time, significantly more time than what it takes for us to handle Veo Ride. More than most of Veo Ride, besides, and I'm talking about all bike share companies. I apologize, I keep referring to the one company that's operating and actually has finished the application. The bike share companies, once they are set up and operating, they basically kind of administer themselves. You know, they have to have staff as per this document. They have to have a response time. So that was discussed there, and I hope to be bringing more of what Champaign was thinking, but I would love to get your feedback, BPAC, as to whether we should be
So is
charging
this
more.
was just the application fee? Is there also an annual fee?
On what?
Is there also an annual fee, or is it,
This is just the application fee, and there's no annual fee.
so everybody just does this thing once? And so do the cities get anything on an annual basis?
Oh, I'm so sorry. They have to fill out an application each year. Yeah.
have to
So that
reapply every
application
year.
fee is annual. Yeah.
Okay.
When I say that the university, that's not the whole story, and the university does get more. They get about $2,500 per company. It's every bicycle that is brought by a company has to have a $5 registration fee.
Because the only way I can think of increasing the fee, if there is even a purpose to increase the fee, which I'm not sure there is, would be, if a ride starts in Urbana, we get 25 cents, something like that. But
Right.
yeah,
Right, for
and-
using our right-of-way.
And for us, encouraging people to use this, so it's like a win-win-win. But again, I think that would have to happen if we went with an exclusive contract. There would have to be, I think if this is just generally for everybody, I'm not convinced that there's a reason.
Yeah, and to partner with that and provide a little background, we don't do that with rideshare companies like Uber or Lyft, so because we don't have those exclusive contracts or anything, so we get no fees from that.
So the only other, there's other staff time in managing the bike shares just because we get complaints or something, and occasionally a police officer will have to go do something, maybe. I don't know.
We so far haven't had it, except for the initial first few weeks that they launched. And for a while there, I was still at the university, and I was actually getting calls from Urbana and Champaign police officers. So there was like a little bit of confusion. I will say that community development is unaware of any complaints that Public Works have had to tap into the $1,000 money that is set aside for handling those complaints. No citations have been. We've never drawn upon that money, and to the best of my knowledge, police officers have not been moving bikes or gone out to move bikes.
The only time you tap into that money, though, is if they don't respond within 24 hours, is that right? Or
Absolutely.
Or 12 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
So
and
you
that's
could
when
be-
the city
you could
would
be
do
spending
something.
staff time dealing with complaints and not tap into that money is my only point. Because you would have to document that you've contacted them or that somebody has contacted them and it's been there for 12 hours and then you can fine them, right?
Yeah, it's just never
But
happened.
if they move it within
Yeah.
if they move it within 6 hours, you've
Yeah.
had some staff time in dealing with.
So if we had actually drawn upon that money in that theoretical example, that we would be using staff time, yes. That currently has not happened.
So essentially, we're getting a transportation system. We are getting an alternative transportation system. Essentially, I hate to use the word for free, but it's cost, plus we're making $200 a year from it, right?
Yes.
For a complete alternative transportation system.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Currently we pay for other transportation systems.
Well, we probably do put in some of that. It's not just free, but yeah, it's a reasonable deal. It's not us, because I was trying to think, would there be hidden, unpredicted, oh my gosh, now we got to do this, and it doesn't seem like there are. And if
Okay.
they got to do it every year, then if things change, we can change.
Well, with that, I think I am hearing that we're okay with the $600. Okay. All right, thank you for your comments. I really do appreciate this, BPAC. So what you'll see here on the side is the start of some general formatting errors. This might have gotten signed with a couple of numbering problems. That's okay. So we're going to go in and we're going to correct those things. But one potential thing that I will be asking you all tonight to comment on, and if there's no comment, that's completely fine, but also asking the other two parties, knowing your comments, is currently in the lead agency section. So we're in leads agency duties, collect bike company license data and distribute the same to the parties in the provided agreement. Currently, that's being handled by the company. That is the only one that's been applied and is operating in our community. So I would like to have your feedback. If you'd like to see that just change to reflect how it's currently being done, or whether you'd like to keep something like that in for the lead agency, this being Champaign. If it's no comment, that's fine.
It seems to me that getting it from the company would be preferable than having to go to Champaign and take their staff time to put in a data request. And the companies, can compete to show who's the most responsive and so on.
Thank you all. All right. With that, we're going to keep going down. Section 4. This is where most things are. There's a little bit of a typo here. Within 90, should be 60 days following the latest day the party executes this agreement, each party shall adopt one or more regulations which, in substance, provide that. And then we get into some things. Again, there's a little bit of a numbering problem. Oh, there's just a period. Okay. Insurance requirements. Number of dockless bikes deployed. Yeah. So number of dockless bikes deployed. The current IGA says no bike company shall deploy more than 500 dockless bikes within the parties' combined jurisdictions. So after going to Urbana Committee of Whole and Champaign City Council, I have provided draft language, and I'd love to hear feedback. Bike companies with more than 1 year of operation and considered in good standing of all parties shall deploy no more than I have to remember, 750 dockless bikes within the parties' combined jurisdictions. All other bike companies may not deploy more than 500 dockless bikes within the parties' combined jurisdictions. So it's basically keeping the same, but giving existing companies that have shown that they're in good standing and they've been responsive boost due to the fact that currently, as far as it's operating right now, Veoride's been very responsive, but also they have, we can kind of see the effects of them being very popular in that people are kind of hiding bikes. They're trying to get them from each other because they want to use a bike and they're trying to find them. More bikes would help.
I think this would be great, and I'm not completely convinced as to why we're limiting the number of bikes. That's my only comment.
Okay.
I just, the 1 year of operation might not be specific enough. It might just say 1 year of, operation under our program or under Champaign-Urbana or whatever we're calling it.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if it'll ever be needed, but you might want to specify what considered in good standing means when some company asks you why they're not in good standing. Have something to point to.
Generally, you can confer with the party, but yeah, absolutely. Let me ask. I have taken that to understand for the city of Urbana that we haven't drawn on our $1,000 set aside. Well, there for $1,000 set aside, and that will not need to be refreshed for Veoride. All right. So numbering issues aside and formatting. Lead agency. So that's per what we discussed earlier about maybe the company dispersing information. It says all parties instead. This was something that Councilmember Mary Alice Wu suggested, adding the number of complaints or requests to move the bikes. Cool, I'm seeing some nods. Yes,
Wait,
yes.
When, where, how? What was that? What is that?
Oh, I'm
What they
sorry.
reported.
Yeah.
Oh,
so this
okay,
is the
got it,
number.
got it.
This is the data that's required.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's on a monthly basis. Section 8. That's just updating it for the year. Term and termination of the IGA. And that's it. Told you it'd be short. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'm just going to stay up here if it's okay with you, Bill. I've got an announcement for the announcement section.
Okay. Any other questions for Lily? Anything? Okay, announcements. Lily.
Cool. May is Bike Month, as we all know, and Bike to Work Day is May 1st. Please register. There's a really great PSA on UPTV that got launched today on YouTube. Yes, I'm seeing a nod. Cool. Urbana's all about it. We are going to we're kind of hosting, but we're doing an event at the City of Urbana with the City of Champaign and hopefully Savoy. It's tentative, and I'm giving them the next week, whatever. But we're doing Bike with the Mayors, and that is firm. May 23rd, 2019, 6 p.m. After we get the final, say, yay or nay from Savoy, I will be hopefully inviting all council members, but everybody here is invited, and please tell your friends. We will start in downtown Urbana. The mayors, Marlin and Finan, will start in downtown Urbana and bike to downtown Champaign. It should be pretty fun. We'll meet at the food co-op parking lot, and then we will head to Maïs in downtown Champaign. The ride will be approximately 20 minutes. I've got a route right here. It's pretty okay, but it's very MCOR heavy, in case you want me to sum it up, maybe. So that's my announcement.
Will you be inviting the chancellor?
The chancellor was invited,
Okay.
and he said no. I will say that he is coming to some Urbana events in May for Safety Month. May is a lot of things. It's Community Development Month, it's Safety Month, it's a whole lot of month, it's graduation. And so he had to pass on this event.
Well, I have it in my calendar as Ride with CU's Mayors. So I'm excited.
That's what I love to hear. All of you, scribble in calendar now. Thank you.
I think there's a Bike Month calendar, too, available on the...
It's on it.
Yeah.
But instead of just relegating to one little box on a whole thing, I thought I might as well plug it. Absolutely. Yeah, for all the viewers at home. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that should take care of a few announcements.
Yeah.
Any other announcements besides the calendar? Oh, yeah. Kara?
Along the south side of Crystal Lake Park, the path work has begun. So that's the 10-foot wide path that'll go from the corner of Park and Broadway all the way over to the other side of the park by Carl Hospital. It's pretty amazing and transformative already, and it's not even been completely installed. So if you have a chance, check it out. And also, don't be alarmed that the lake level is so low. We had to drop it by 6 to 7 feet for them to do some work at that really tight corner over there by Jimmy John's. It's all part of the work.
It's a plot to make it hard for the geese to lay eggs, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, there's the Bike Month calendar. And what, oh, that's on CU Bike Month, Weebly.com. Okay.
If you go to cubikemonth.org, it will redirect you to that, in case you're looking for something a little bit shorter.
cubikemonth.org. Okay, thanks. Any other announcements? Okay, future agenda topics. We mentioned we were going to have a report from Vision Zero Committee next month. And then, was RPC going to be ready with anything next month? Do you know, Craig?
I'm not sure. I'm hopeful.
Okay.
I don't know yet. So if it's ready, it'll come.
Yeah.
If not, it'll be June. So hopefully.
Anyone else have anything? Any new future topics?
I will also really fast, one quick plug for Bike Month. Me and a few other LCIs are doing the Campus Bike Rodeo, so if you know any young families who want to learn more bike skills and have some LCIs out there, setting up a course and having a good time. We'll have the CCB bike trailer, which is also always a very good time, and face painters and music all on campus at the ARC. We'll be at the parking lot next to the ARC. We'll have it cordoned off, which is Activities and Recreation Center in Champaign, but on campus.
Okay.
I'd be happy to, I came up with a Urbana bike rack design. So when I gave my presentation on bike racks last time, I was really, I was kind of pushing for the idea of using bike racks as wayfinding so you would know when you were in Urbana. And I thought real hard, and I came up with a design. And it doesn't mean the city of Urbana would have to install these, but I just think it might be interesting to look at it and maybe talk about it. And then also maybe just talk about creating a really simple website that could be hosted on the city of Urbana that would tell people this is how you install like good bike racks, bad bike racks, and like it's just a very simple website. We could just share with people when we see they don't have a proper bike rack. We could just send them to this URL and say this is. So if there's time, if there's not time, there's no rush on this. That topic's
Okay.
completely no rush whatsoever.
I thought all U racks were Urbana racks.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to trust. I haven't.
The zoning ordinance does require for all new developments URACs too. So, of course, when you make comments about a lot of parking at developments, that was also City of Urbana's zoning.
I think those,
developments.
aren't those, what do you call those, like the ones that are just north of 25 O'Clock Brewery?
Mhm. Are you talking about the ground control park-a-bike ones?
Yeah, those are,
Yeah.
aren't those still legal too?
Those are legal. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just double check though.
And, yeah, because
Would-
Jeff Merritt has those too in front of the little bike shop.
Yeah, because that's the question I have is, would it be possible for the city of Urbana if I did come up with this very simple design, which I'm literally just going to take the Provincetown website I showed you last time, which is great, and then just obviously alter it for the city of have the city of Urbana alter it, but I don't know if it's possible to put prices or approximation how much stuff costs, or if that's illegal. So I don't. That would be my only thing. That's all I'm saying.
I can answer the ground control acceptable designs in our zoning ordinance and parking. It does that style is not on that list, but I will say that for May 9th, Plan Commission staff is working on another zoning text omnibus, and we're already going to be working in Article 8, and so we can consider that.
I know, so, okay, I'll take a look. I thought it just kind of said encouraged and discouraged on those, but it actually says what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I knew the comb racks and the waves were bad, but, okay. All right, that sounds like another topic. Okay, anything else? Okay, with nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks.